Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Big Sarge, everybody's favorite NCO, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first official YouTube video I've put together for you guys. I'd just like to thank you for coming to the channel and showing it some love. With that, I just want to jump right in. I'm going to be doing an NFL 2020 mock draft, and I really am excited to tell you guys about this website I've been using called NFL Mock Draft Database. It's honestly the best website I've ever seen in terms of wanting to do mock drafts and giving you all the data from other drafts that have been going on and other drafts that people have put together on the website. So I just want to use this software and show you guys how it works and kind of give you the down and dirty with it. And I really want to thank the NFL Mock Draft Database website for allowing me to use their product and feature it in my video, because honestly I think it's going to bring way better quality than I could provide just by myself. With that, before we jump fully into this video, I'd like to give one more big shout out, and that's to my smoking ass hot wife. She really has been my rock and has been tremendously supportive in this process, and it's been interesting trying to compile everything for you guys and be able to give you the best quality. So let's get right into this draft. With the first overall pick, I think everybody's pretty dead set on the idea of the Cincinnati Bengals taking Joe Burrow. Although I don't think he's the best quarterback in the class, I legit think Cincinnati will burn to the ground unless Joe Burrow is taken #1 overall. The team will be sold, so they're going to have to select him. He's going to be an above-average starter for them here for probably the next 10 years, but honestly, I think he's going to be very Andy Dalton-esque. So good luck to them, and congratulations, Joe Burrow, for going #1 overall. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the Washington Redskins. We got a defensive-minded coach, Ron Rivera, taking the star of the draft, in my opinion, Chase Young out of Ohio. He's honestly just the best player and probably should have went #1 overall if the Bengals really were able to, and not an organization on fire right now. But they're not. So Chase Young is going to fall to Ron Rivera, who's going to come up with some creative ways and be able to use him along with Ryan Kerrigan in that defensive line and be able to make a big impact. #3 overall, I think there's going to be a trade. I think Carolina is going to move up in the draft to #3. They're going to trade with the Lions, and I'm going to tell you why. They need Jeffrey Okunda, and it's as simple as that. When you have a division stacked with Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, now probably Gronkowski, and God knows who else is going to come up through the draft for these teams, you need a player like Jeffrey Okunda who is willing to get physical with everybody, get up in their face, and make things happen. Because without him, the Panthers honestly mean nothing in this division. And I know they got Teddy Bridgewater, who I'm a personal big fan of, and I know they got Christian McCaffrey, who I also am pretty much in love with. But if you don't have a defense that can slow down some of these wide receivers, it doesn't make a difference at all. So with that, the Panthers absolutely move up to #3 and select the best cornerback in this whole draft, and for sure make themselves more competitive in the next couple years playing this division. It's going to be, honestly, the toughest division in football. So with that, let's move on to the Giants pick. I think the Giants need to keep it simple here. Without any real offers from any other teams to move up and get Tua or Herbert, the Giants are going to take, in my opinion, the best offensive tackle in this draft, and that's Jedrick Willis. He is solid across the board in overall play and physical stature, and honestly, he just plays nasty. And that's exactly what this team's need, is a big, nasty offensive tackle that can help out Barkley and Jones excel to their full potential. Willis will literally be a day-one impact for this team, and really doesn't come with a lot of risk or liabilities, in my opinion, except that he's going to be a star on their offensive line for the next decade. So with that, we're going to move on to the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins held their breath here, praying that nobody was going to move up into the Giants slot and take their guy. Surprisingly, though, they waited out, thinking that whoever moves up is going to take Tua, and to many people's pretty common knowledge, they're going to go with Herbert here. I think Brian Flores realizes he has worn out his welcome with the Dolphins management staff, and he has tore apart this team, gutted it, got picks out of it, and it's time to produce. He always claims he wants to have a winning organization, so let's finally show that by taking your guy, a guy who can come in, not necessarily start right away, but play under Fitzmagic, who will tank at some point during the season, and at that point, you can put Herbert into your scheme, get it going, and finally prove with your next 2 picks that you and Herbert can form some kind of winning organization down in Miami, because that's sorely what they've needed for a very long time. All right, after that, we go ahead and we move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, a lot of people do think they'll take a quarterback here. I don't. I think they go with Mekhi Becton. This guy is an absolute mauler. They don't need a quarterback. He said he doesn't need a quarterback. If anything, they can sign Cam Newton, who can take over for Tyrod Taylor, who has not really ever had a chance, but could show that he's worthy of having the starting job. But Anthony Lynn and company decided to get a big offensive tackle to help protect their guy. Now, the Lions, who have sat quietly back at 7 after trading away their 3rd overall pick, are very delighted to see a guy who they initially had thought about taking still sitting there, and that is Derrick Brown, the defensive tackle at Auburn. The Lions moved back, got some more picks to help rebuild their team while still getting the best defensive tackle in the draft. Brown will fit with Matt Patricia and will help the defense who lost Slay. Brown's not ever going to be an Aaron Donald kind of guy, but he is going to help show up and gobble up blockers and make that secondary with the Lions not look so bad. And with that, we got a trade alert going on here. And I'm going to give you the exact trade that I think is going to happen here. I think the Buccaneers are going to trade the failing tight end, O.J. Howard, in the 14th overall pick and the 139th overall pick to get the Cardinals' 8th overall pick and something like a 2021 third round pick, something like that. But the Buccaneers make it very clear that they are all in with Tom Brady and now Gronkowski, and that's going to be who's leading at the helm. And they don't need O.J. Howard at this point. He's just going to sit on the sideline anyway, so they're going to boost up their run game and protect Tom Brady and allow him to find those weapons downfield by selecting offensive tackle Andrew Thomas out of Georgia, and it's going to be insane. Now with this, the Jacksonville Jaguars are in total disbelief with how far Tua has fallen at this point. Nobody expected this except me. I think with the limited medical evaluations available for the teams, nobody's just going to be willing to risk their entire franchise, or in fact trading up and selling their franchise for a guy who has had some pretty serious injury problems. So step in Jaguars, they're going to go ahead and bring Tua to sunny Florida, and they're going to be happy about it. Now, coming up next is the Cleveland Browns, who a lot of people think might trade, but I disagree. I think they see a guy who can match up with Lamar Jackson, and honestly, they just feel forced to take him, and that is Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson. This guy, some people say he's going to be a safety. Some people say he's going to be just a flat-out linebacker. Who knows? But the Browns will find a way to ruin his career. And that's by thinking that he's going to be able to handle Lamar Jackson. No offense to Simmons, who could be a great player, but Lamar Jackson's just on a whole nother level. So now we go to the Jets, and I think the Jets are in desperate need of a wide receiver. I think most people would agree, and I don't know that this pick will really surprise that many people. It might be that it's CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. But if you mix Lamb, Bell, and Darnold, I think Adam Gase can hopefully get something firing on all cylinders. Otherwise, next year he's going to be just totally out of a job. And I think Lamb gives him a good threat anywhere on the field. So kudos to Darnold for getting another weapon. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. That's going to be a hard one. I'm probably going to mess that up later. But I think Mike Mayock is pretty happy with the defensive line he's built so far, but he really wants to take it to the next level. And with that, I think he's going to take Javon Kinlaw, probably butchered the name, out of South Carolina. And with him, Max Crosby, mixing up Clelin Ferrell in there a little bit, I mean, it's just going to be a really hard defensive line to manage. And I think that Gruden and Mayock kind of built it pretty quietly. A lot of people weren't happy with the Clelin Ferrell pick last year, but we'll see how it works out this year, see if they can get them all firing on all cylinders together. And hopefully it just works out, because they got a pretty serious division going on there with the Chiefs. Speaking of Chiefs, we have the 49ers coming up, the losers to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And I think the 49ers really help out Jimmy G here by selecting Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver out of Alabama. I mean, Jimmy G's been catching flack everywhere he turns. There's even talks about Tom Brady taking his spot until he went to the Bucs. And I think it's just nonsense. I think Garoppolo's a fairly good above-average quarterback, and Lynch and Shanahan help him out here by giving him a good wide receiver who can come in with Deebo Samuel and really just allow him to dominate over top, as well as keeping the run game and the defense pretty well together. Now, I think they're going to need some help at cornerback, but for right now, I think at 13 sitting there, not a great cornerback they want to reach for that won't be there possibly later. So I think they go ahead and select Henry Ruggs III here. Now, with the Arizona Cardinals getting their pick, they're very surprised to see a guy who they love still sitting here at 14 after the trade with the Buccaneers. And that's why I think that Cliff Kingsbury convinces the Arizona Cardinals staff to go ahead and select Jerry Jeudy. Now, I'm going to tell you why, because I know they have Hopkins, and we know they have Fitzgerald, and, they got Murray, and they have put together quietly a pretty decent team as far as an offense goes for an air raid system with Kenny and Drake. But if you add Jerry Jeudy to this team, who do you cover? I mean, can you double Hopkins? Yes, because you have to. You might even still have to triple cover Hopkins. But Fitzgerald's still there too. He's not that old and unreliable. He's still a monster. And if you have Hopkins and Jeudy learning behind Fitzgerald, it's just unreal. You're going to have 3 possible Hall of Famers when it comes down to it. And they all played on the same team at the same time. So I think Jerry Jeudy surprisingly does go to the Cardinals, even though they have a really solid wide receiver core at this point. So with that, we're going to move on to the Broncos and John Elway, who I'm just not a big fan of his drafting abilities, but he's going to do him, and I think he's going to select cornerback C.J. Henderson out of Florida, who kind of fits his mentality of being tough. And C.J. is really good in coverage, but he's also really willing to come up and help out in the run. I think that's going to help benefit them a lot because he can stay on the field and have those quick decisions to come up and really take out some of those long runs that I think the Broncos have struggled with lately, particularly at their linebacking core. But I think they do end up taking C.J. Henderson here. Maybe a little early for some people, maybe a little late for some people. I think it's a pretty good fit there with the Broncos, who've had a good cornerback system for quite a while. So now we're going to move on to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. They still got Matty Ice and Julio Jones, but I just don't really honestly like what's been going on there. I mean, their defense should be good. Dan Quinn should be pulling it together, and Matty Ice should be leading the offense. But it's been, I don't know, falling apart, I guess, ever since the Super Bowl loss. But Todd Gurley's going to come in, I think maybe do some good running for him, and Julio's going to be Julio and just be a monster. Matty Ice is going to chuck it up there to him. But I think they're going to go ahead and look defense and try to help out their defense by getting K. Levon Chasen. Probably butcher that name, but I think he's going to help them out a lot. And I'm going to tell you what, I think they just need a guy who can come in and take his good leadership skills and great character and give this team a boost. Sometimes that's what you need, is just to get some good character guys in there who have good leadership, and I think that can really improve a lot of the team, because I think this team is very talented. They're just missing Jason, who I think is going to come in and maybe boost that defense up, maybe kind of give them some of their swagger back. And overall, I think that this pick is really going to benefit the Falcons, who are going to be in a tough division with the Buccaneers. So they're going to have to show up and be able to beat the Saints and Buccaneers and the Panthers if they have any shot at doing anything this year and not being an even higher pick next year. And I think that kind of continues on to Dallas, who really needs to find some identity on defense. I mean, they've been pretty good, but I think they've been lacking in terms of meeting their potential. I think the Dallas needs some beef up front, and I think that's exactly where they're going to go, even though there's been all this drama going on with Dak not getting paid, not signing his tenure, and it's just been crazy. Paying Amari Cooper a ton, which I think he deserves. I think Dallas really needs to give Dak a deal, but let's not say it too loud. So I think that they go ahead and go AJ Epensia. Probably messed his name up as well. I'm not great at pronouncing all these names. But I think he gives them some beef up front, and I think Dallas will be overall pleased with the production that he gives them, especially in big situations. I think he really shows up. And now we come back to Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins. I think he could go several directions here, but I really think he wants to continue to build this defense. He's already paid some serious money for cornerbacks, but cornerbacks can only cover a wide receiver all day long when a quarterback is just, scrambling around looking for something. So I think he takes Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end out of Penn State, to try to really speed up that quarterback play and help their cornerbacks continue to keep guys covered and maybe enforce some 50-50 jump balls that result in turnovers. Because we know young quarterbacks and Fitzmagic love to turn the ball over. So I think they go ahead and take their guy Yetur Gross-Matos, and they're pretty happy about it. I think it's a good pick, and I think Brian Flores will be pretty pleased with how he pans out this following year. So with the conclusion of the Dolphins' second pick, I think we go to the Raiders' second pick here in the first round. And I think the Raiders, although they've already gone defense, are going to look defense again. And I'm going to tell you it's because they're pretty comfortable with Derek Carr, Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs on offense right now, even though the wide receiver core is a little rusty. And this may be because they're going to tank for Trevor. We don't know. But I'm going to say they go with another Clemson guy here, and they're going to take A.J. Terrell, cornerback, who a lot of people may not have rated as their next cornerback on their draft board. But I think that Mayock and them love how long and lean he is, and I think this is really going to give them a second cornerback that they can rely on and hopefully stall that Chiefs offense. And I think if they can get a good run game going against them and stall Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, and they stand a chance at winning some games actually next year against them. So let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have had their heads turned upside down being able to select Tua with their previous selection. So I think they have changed their plans a little bit from revamping the defense, which there's been a lot of great players in this draft for defense and wide receivers. But I think that they're going to look at the franchise and decide that they're going to set up the offense, and they really need to protect Tua, who has had health injuries. So we're looking at Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. And I think he is a great player that's going to protect Tua for the next decade. So let's hope he can keep him healthy. Let's move on to the Eagles. Oh, man, the Eagles. I feel like they've just kind of been at a downhill slope and all over the board. But I think really what they need at 21 is going to be some defensive help. And I'm looking particularly at the linebacking core. I think if they can get a fast player like Patrick Queen, they can kind of lock up any kind of tight end play that's coming down the field. He's really good at jumping lanes and shutting down the run game. I think he's got great instincts there, and he can cover wide receivers fairly well and shut down their lanes too as they come over the middle towards them. So I think he gives them a good boost. Vikings totally could go wide receiver here, but I don't think they do. I think that they look at the cornerback situation and they see that they've got a couple guys still on here like Christian Fulton, but I don't think they go with LSU. I think instead they skip down a little bit and go to Jalen Johnson out of Utah, who has been phenomenal. I think he comes in and immediately upgrades their cornerback crew there because it's been suffering quite a bit with Xavier Rhodes going to the Colts and everything like that. So with that, let's just go ahead and take a look at the Patriots. And I think the Patriots are going to look at making a trade here with the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to tell you why. Old Bill Belichick has been snickering while everybody makes fun of his quarterback room when secretly him and Ballard have been working out this trade. And I think that the Indianapolis Colts trade Jacoby Brissett, their 75th overall and a 2021 third-round pick, to the Patriots for the 23rd overall pick and the 87th overall pick. Bill gets his highly intelligent guy that he already handpicked and was grooming but was forced to let go, and Brissett, and brings back his guy for the future of the franchise, while the Colts go ahead and select their guy, who is going to be the future of their team. And we all know that there's been a couple different quarterbacks looked at here. For some reason, people have thought Jake Fromm. I don't know. I think that's crazy. I think they go ahead and select Jordan Love out of Utah, and they bring him in, and they let him sit behind Phillip Rivers for a while, who is going to make a deep playoff run, I think, this year. And with that deep playoff run, they still set themselves up for the future. I think this is straight out of Andy Reid's playbook. They had Alex Smith, he did great, and then bam, they still had a good year, and they came back, let him go, and moved on with Patrick Mahomes. So, the Saints here are just baffled. Here they thought we have sat at number 24 this whole time, and we were going to end up with Jordan Love in our lap. But that's not the case here, so they're going to have to stick with Taysom Hill and the ever-aging Drew Brees here, who I still think is fantastic and possibly one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But they have to regather their thoughts and look around the draft room and think, who do we need and what position do we need? Now, I thought about going wide receiver here, I'm going to be honest, because Michael Thomas could use a little bit of help with Alvin Kamara, and they would just be unstoppable. But their offense is already really good. What got them in trouble a lot last year was their defense just getting lit up. I mean, they got in a couple of shootouts. So I think that they look here at a linebacker, and they skip on Kenneth Murray, who a lot of people have ranked next, and they go with Zach Bond, linebacker out of Wisconsin. And I think they'll be pretty happy with it. I think he'll help them out a lot this year. So now let's look at the Vikings. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. They are absolutely going wide receiver, and they're going to go to Clemson, and they're going to take T. Higgins, who I think just brings a little zip to their offense and can help out in the red zone and kind of keep Cousins going after the Diggs trade. So next is the Miami Dolphins, and this is their last pick of the first round, which is number 3, by the way. Insane. Brian Flores gutting teams, and I think that they're going to go ahead and think about this one, and they just need a running back. I mean, they've gotten rid of everybody, so why not go to Georgia, look at DeAndre Swift, and just put him on your team. I mean, he's great all-around back. I really think he's pretty decent in pass coverage. He's a great check down for Fitzmagic and eventually Herbert when Herbert comes in. But he's still able to run the ball constantly. I know their offensive line is not great, but their defense is going to be awesome. So if they can put DeAndre Swift in there, grind out some yardage, I think that really puts them over the edge. Seattle. I think Seattle really needs to go O-line here. I think they got a couple other spots they could really add some depth to, but I think O-line is just a huge deal here. So I think they go ahead and select Josh Jones, offensive lineman out of Houston, and I think this will give them some big, nasty weight up front to help solidify their offense and keep them moving. But Seattle will be Seattle. They'll always do good, make it to the playoffs, and they just need that depth, I think, at line to help them really get further in the playoffs at this point. So as we're starting to wind down in this draft, let's get to the Ravens, who should have made it farther in the playoffs, but they didn't because they just got stomped by King Henry. And it's really unfortunate because Earl Thomas is a monster, and he got made a fool of. There's some bad images out there with him, blocking for King Henry, but I think they say no more. They brought in some more defensive talent. They know their offense is a stud situation, so they go with linebacker Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. Murray is just going to be another addition to this defense, and he'll just allow them to finally shut down some of those teams that are able to actually make runs on them, and they'll pick up somebody to cover Yonda a little bit later in this draft. And then we go to Tennessee. I think Tennessee, getting rid of Jarrell Casey, just needs some defensive line talent here. So we're going to look at Ross Blacklock, defensive lineman out of TCU, and I think he'll help fill that void that Jarrell Casey left behind, and it's unfortunate that they can't keep him and add some depth, but I think Ross will come in and not be Jarrell Casey, but he'll quickly, fill in and help out a lot. So we got the Green Bay Packers coming up here, number 30, and I thought a lot about going defense and helping LaFleur's system out here, but I just could not do it. I honestly just kept coming right back to this wide receiver who is flying up the boards pretty well for his connection with Joe Burrow at LSU, and that is Justin Jefferson. I think this guy is so talented, and he'll come in and immediately Rodgers and Jefferson, even with the short offseason, are going to click. Burrow and him were phenomenal. Imagine what he's going to be like with Rodgers. He catches things so fast. He's willing to block, and he's just going to come in. He's going to be a very big fan favorite, following up behind Devontae Adams. So after that, let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers, who were in the Super Bowl but managed to get 2 picks here, and they already added some depth to their wide receiver core on offense. So I think we're going to go ahead and look at defense here, and I think their biggest issue is going to be their back end. I think that they got exposed a little bit in the Super Bowl, and I think Richard Sherman is just honestly going downhill. And I never was a big fan of him just because of his attitude, but undeniable talent, and so he's going to be a liability for him. So I think they add Xavier McKinney, out of Alabama to get some safety help. And he's just so long and lanky, and I think he's going to be able to cover up a lot of mistakes that might be made by the 49ers quarterbacks, but they still need that Sherman leadership, so they keep him around. Then we're going to look at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, Super Bowl champs, kept almost all of their team together. I mean, just ridiculous wheeling and dealing going on over there in KC. Got my man Kelsey, got Patrick Mahomes, and so they look at some offensive linemen here because I think that's their biggest weakness right now. And Cesar Ruiz made it all the way to their spot. He's a center out of Michigan, and I think he's going to upgrade and help protect Patrick Mahomes there and allow him to still be crazy and fly around and do what he wants, but at the same time keeping those health issues away. So with that, let's conclude this draft. I just want to say that I tried to make this as authentic as possible by taking in consideration the video conferences, the fact that teams weren't allowed to bring players in and physically see them and have them evaluated by their medical staff that they know and trust. So I think that limits some of the trades and some of the craziness that normally happens in the draft. But something crazy will happen. It always does. Who knows? But if you liked this video, please leave a comment and click the like button. Maybe even subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it and are looking for more future content from me. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down, comment, tell me why. I'll try to improve it. I'll get a hold of you and maybe we can see what the issue is and hopefully get some better footage out there for everybody. That's my main goal. This being my first video, I was a little bit nervous. Might have talked a little crazy, had to do some crazy editing, but thank you for those of you that stuck with it and enjoyed this draft. And if you stick around and hang on to this channel, I'll be covering a lot more NFL stuff and going into some Madden gaming stuff. So I just want to send a lot of love out to you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to my wife and kids again and friends who've helped me out. And another big, huge thanks to the NFL Mock Draft Database for allowing me to use their website and really bring you guys a lot better quality video than I would have been able to do by myself. So look in the description to find a link to his website and to the Twitter handle. Honestly, guys, you got to check it out. It is by far the best website I've ever used, and I've used a lot of different mock draft systems, and I just fell in love with this one. The guy loves what he does. He enjoys it, and he's a big fan, and that's what makes it great. So one more thanks. I just really do appreciate everything. This is the first video of hopefully many and maybe a long career on YouTube, but I just want to send a big thank you out to all the veterans and everybody else who's helped out with the COVID-19 medical staff, police department, fire department. And if you have any kind of problems, you can always call a number at the bottom of the outro to this video. So have a nice day. Peace. With